How many people can tell me what this tool is? What is it? How many of you have this at home in your toolbox? Quite a few. Me too. Me too. Sometimes it's just the right tool for the job type of thing. Well, Vicegrip was invented in 1924 in a small town or outside a small town of DeWitt, Nebraska by William Peterson. He was a blacksmith. The tool became quickly popular. At its height, the plant in DeWitt was producing 7 million tools annually, and they were sending 30% of those tools overseas. So that was a good export, helping our trade surplus at the time. At its height, the DeWitt plant employed more people than lived in DeWitt. It was known as a good place to work, good jobs with good benefits, near lifelong job security, decent chance that your kids, your son or daughter might work there when they got old enough. People loved the place. They said it was a great place to work. The company was known to help people with their mortgages, help their workers with their mortgages, to eat the costs of increases in health insurance, at least many times, maybe not every time, but often. Very nice place to work. But after 41 years, the Peterson family decided to sell the business. It went through, over the next 18 years, it went through several different owners, and in 2002, it was purchased by Newell Corporation, a corporation known for its rigorous cost cutting, a corporation that still is known for its rigorous cost cutting. Over the next couple years, they began reducing the workforce in DeWitt, not even just the manufacturing jobs, but many of the managerial jobs as well. And by 2006, they closed the plant. Many people were left in the middle of rural Nebraska with no job, having worked there many years, maybe in their 40s, maybe in their 50s, pension gone, income gone, and the prospect of low-level service work as really the only jobs available. A tough situation. And yet, this tool is still produced today. It's still manufactured. You can still buy it. It still provides jobs for people, just not in America. It is built today in China. So the story of Vicegrip, I think, tells us a lot about why Middle America is feeling squeezed today, why their jobs, their finances, and their retirement seem more tenuous than maybe ever before. Many of you may be feeling some of the same kinds of anxieties and the same kinds of pressures, or know people that do. I mean, how many of you know somebody who's recently lost a job or had a pay freeze? I mean, any of you know people in that situation? Or maybe their benefits have been cut, or they've had to increase the contribution they make to their pension or to their health insurance. I know that I can actually hold up my hand on that one. Maybe some of you worry about your children. I know I worry about my child, whether she'll ever be able to buy her own home or to save for retirement. And it hasn't always been this way. After World War II, we went through about 3 decades of prosperity in the country. That was particularly for whites, I have to admit. It didn't really reach down as far maybe as we would have ideally liked. But it was a time of prosperity for corporations and for their workers. There was upward mobility. Children tended to do a little better than their parents were doing. And you could sort of, after a couple decades of that, people were sort of counting on that. But by the time we get to the late 70s and into the early 1980s, things were changing and things were shifting. And it's my purpose this evening to talk about what I see as 4 main shifts that have taken place that have squeezed the middle class, that have made them feel more financially tenuous than they used to. At the same time, we've been seeing income and profit growth at the top and in our corporations. It's also my claim that these 4 shifts are not the result of the invisible hand of the market or just these global trends that we really can't do anything about or can't control. It's my contention that much of these shifts is due to the intentional decisions of executives in our corporations and to our elected officials in the halls of Washington. So let's get started. My first shift has to do with income. Since mid-70s, really, we've seen a lot of wage and income stagnation. For the bottom 80% of the country, we've seen generally a leveling off of incomes, at least when we factor in inflation and the consumer price index and those types of things. One way to look at this, we'll look at it a couple different ways, but one way to look at it is to take the nation's total income and picture it as a big pie. Maybe a big apple pie, right? A good American apple pie. Only the top 20%, since 1980, only the top 20% have increased their slice of the pie. They've increased it by 19%. Now they have effectively half the pie. And if you look at wealth statistics, they're even more dramatically unequal. That means the other 80% of us have a smaller slice. We're divvying up about half the pie as well. That's 80% of us divvying up half of it. Another way to look at this is changes in the relative incomes of chief executive officers and factory workers. In 1980, the average chief executive officer made 42 times what the average factory worker makes. That seems like quite a bit right there. But by 2007, that was up to 325 times as much. Chief executive officers, average salary, 325 times that of our average factory worker. So, what that means is, when you put this all together, middle incomes simply don't stretch as far as they used to. As costs for transportation, for health care, all these different things have been going up, our incomes have only been rising just a small amount. And they're really either just barely holding even or dropping down a little. So that's made us feel more tenuous about our incomes. And then we can couple that with tenuous jobs. Simply put, free trade agreements have hurt American jobs far more than they've helped them. Since 1974, Congress and the White House, with the backing of many on Wall Street, have passed numerous free trade agreements. And they've promised us a lot with these free trade agreements. We were going to open up the international markets to American products. And that was going to mean the demand for American products was going to go up, so our production would go up and our jobs, we'd have job growth, and it would actually protect American jobs. Ooh. Excuse me. Second promise was that, or actually kind of the third promise, we had the opening markets, protecting jobs. We were going to improve consumer choice, that we would bring in exports from elsewhere, and we'd have more choices in the things we buy, and maybe even a little cheaper than we might pay otherwise. That one's probably been true. I think we've had some good things come out of that. And a fourth thing was there was going to be just general world prosperity. This was to increase world wealth, and kind of rising tides were supposed to lift all boats. But really, the only major winner in this equation has been corporate profits. That's what's been going up. American jobs have been outsourced. We're losing jobs overseas. Matter of fact, the changes in these free trade agreements have generally encouraged our corporations to move many of their productive manufacturing jobs overseas. And we've been losing jobs rapidly, like water down a drain. Since 1980, we've lost 8 million manufacturing jobs. We had, I think in 1980, 19.5 million, and we've lost 8 million. I think that's a 41% decline. 41% decline. And that's just decimated. We've closed 56,000 plants, factories since 2000 alone. 56,000. And this has decimated many of the industries in the United States, our furniture industry, our shoe industry, our textile industry, industries that were once very strong and much smaller and even almost fading out at this point. Even the American aircraft industry, besides Boeing, we really don't have a large American manufacturer anymore. That's really the only one left. Even Apple, I don't know how many of you have Apple products sitting in your pockets right now, but those are manufactured largely in China at this point. They've been shifting more and more of their production overseas as well. And so a lot of that's manufacturing jobs, but it hasn't been, as the trend has sort of moved on through the last couple decades, it's moved increasingly up into managerial and technical and professional jobs as well. You know, one quick window is you call tech support for your computer or your Apple phone, and sometimes you get somebody that seems like they're halfway around the world. Not an American, often not an American worker. Furthermore, government probably hasn't done enough or played hardball enough to open up international markets. And again, just one quick window into that. Let me just ask, how many of you own a Japanese car? I do. But can you buy a Japanese car in Japan? Or an American car, excuse me. Nope, you can't. At least it's very difficult from what I've heard. We have some Japanese students at school, and they say, oh, well, you sort of can. You sort of, but it's not like you drive down the road and see a dealership for Ford or for Chevrolet or Chrysler or anything like that. So what this is translated to is that we've moved over the last several decades from what was a trade surplus, where we were exporting more goods than we were importing, into a trade deficit. Right now, I think our trade deficit sits somewhere around $40 billion annually. That means the value of what we're bringing into the country is worth $40 billion more than what we're exporting. That hurts American jobs. If we're not exporting a lot of our products, we're not building American jobs here, we're not protecting American jobs here. So again, middle Americans more tenuous about their incomes and maybe even feeling less secure that their job is going to be there tomorrow. Even managerial jobs, you know, professional technical that have a college degree attached to them, not as secure as they once were. Another issue is taxes. I would contend that we've allowed ourselves as Americans to be bought off for a few $100s of tax savings a year. For a few $100s of savings on my taxes, I sort of have tacitly agreed to turn a blind eye to where the real tax cuts are, and they're at the top. The highest income bracket, the tax rate for that has dropped substantially. For interest and dividends, it's dropped substantially. For capital gains, it's dropped substantially. Now, some of us in this room may benefit from those things, but in a small way compared to those at the top. Drops in those taxes help those at the top almost exclusively. Again, another quick statistic into it. 1955, 400 richest Americans in the country paid just over 51% of their income in federal income taxes. 51%. 2007, it was down to 16.6%. 16.6. That's less than what most of the people in this room pay as a percentage of their income. Corporations have been benefiting too. During much of the 50s, corporations contributed about 32% to federal tax revenues. That's down to less than 8% today. That means we pick up a bigger, as middle America, we're picking up a bigger share of the tax bill than we used to, at least a bigger percentage of it. Even if our taxes go down a little, the taxes at the top are going down so much faster that we're picking up a bigger share of that. So that's shifting the tax burden to us. I think it's contributing. I know we hear there's too much spending in Washington, and there probably is, and yet part of why we have budget deficits is we're sort of robbing the government of money that maybe it's due, that we could, money that it once had because we were charging higher taxes at the top. Last shift, the fourth shift, has to do with pensions. Washington and Wall Street have been rewriting the rules on retirement for the last 3 or 4 decades as well. For much of the 20th century, and again during that era of prosperity, one of the most common forms of pensions that you would get as a worker was a defined benefit plan. You worked a certain number of years, and when you retired, you've got a defined benefit, based on those number of years of service. It didn't matter what the stock market was doing. Your company guaranteed it for you. Those kinds of programs have been disappearing. In 1980, about 28% of the private workforce had defined benefit retirement plans. Today, it's down to 3%. And what's replaced them is generally 401k or what we call defined contribution plans. And what those tend to do is they shift the burden and the risk to the worker. They usually cost the worker more. We're contributing more, a higher percentage of our income than we might be to a defined benefit plan. And most of that money gets invested in the market, in bonds and stocks and other things. And so if things are going well and you're able to contribute a bunch, your income's enough that you can contribute a lot, you may come out of that actually smelling pretty good. But if the market's not doing well and your income isn't very high in the first place, you're not able to put that much in, and if the market's not doing well, it's not really even growing much. So there's no guarantee at the end. So we're shifting both the cost and the risk of pension plans to our workers. So again, the promise of retirement starts to feel more tenuous, feel more fleeting. We're not sure when we can retire, and we're definitely not sure when our kids would ever be able to do that. And yet executive salaries, executive pensions, even when executives get fired from their jobs, they seem to get nice little pensions and parachutes that give them millions of dollars. I don't know how that works. You know, I'd like to get myself fired from Lakeland and see if they'd give me a couple $1 million. I'm going to guess that's not the case. But so where this takes us, let me stop that for a second. Again, I would argue that these are not trends beyond our control, at least as a nation. They're not beyond our control. It's not due, we hear a lot that it's due to new technologies and changes in the economy and that the middle class is just going to have to adjust. Yeah, some people are going to lose their jobs and it's going to be tough, but you just have to adjust, retool, do whatever you need to do. But it's just sort of the invisible hand of the national and world economy, and it's beyond our control. A tough shift in many ways, but it'll be positive down the road. I tend to disagree. I think these shifts have been the result of intentional decisions by executives in Wall Street and by our elected officials in Washington. Other decisions could have been made, and other decisions still could be made. Whether it's stagnating wages, whether it's free trade agreements that are outsourcing jobs overseas, whether it's tax cuts to the rich and not really that much of a cut for the rest of us, and it's the shifting of the burden of pensions, the risk and the cost of pensions to workers. I really do think Washington and Wall Street are putting the squeeze, the pinch on the middle class.